Hey ladies, this is Joy coming to you back from a place of being finally fearless and finding joy. And I'm here with today's tip video. So the topic that came to me this weekend through some discussion with some loved ones was this idea of weakness and wisdom. Looking at weakness versus wisdom, right? I talk a lot about where we're making our decisions from. When we're really tapping into self, when we're tapping into fear, when we're tapping into love, like it's what's really motivating our decisions when we're like trying to move forward in our lives, in our relationships, in our career, whatever we're going to do for ourselves, whatever the next step is in our healing and things like that. So I wanted to touch on this topic of being weak or being wise. And it can get a little bit confusing. It's always confusing when we're taking feedback from other people who maybe feel like they have our best interests at heart. Maybe they actually don't. But anyone who is outside of ourselves, ultimately, when we're making a decision based off of someone else's thought process, is not going to be the best way for you to move forward in anything. It's okay to get feedback. It's okay to have healthy connection and bounce ideas off of people. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when you finally settle on where you need to go, it needs to be a place of you tapping in and knowing that you're making a divine decision, right? Like something that you got from your higher self, from tapping into your higher place, your higher power, from quieting your mind and not allowing others to convince you one way or the other what's right or wrong, okay? So this discussion came up when speaking to somebody that I truly care about who's trying to make a decision about staying strong in their relationship, maybe having boundaries that are being crossed over and over again, and kind of coming from a place of feeling that it is weak when you give up. This idea of if I let down this place of being the strong woman who can manage anything, I can manage all the stuff that you throw at me, right? I'm strong. But if I actually verbalize and make a decision that I can no longer take the things that are coming at me, or they are not healthy for me, they are not blessed things, they are not things that are actually part of my journey, a lot of times you could be told that you're being weak because you can't handle life, right? Like you're hiding from it, you're running from it. Is that really true? Or are you wise about what is the best for you on your path? How do you decide, okay, if I decide that I'm no longer going to basically take your stuff, whether that's from a boss, a coworker, if you're being overworked, if you're putting yourself in a position of over people pleasing, you're putting your needs last. When does it come from a place of I'm wise enough to know that I am not really fully pouring into my true self and I'm not living at my potential because I'm trying to juggle and handle everyone else's energy, all this other stuff that is not serving me? So how do we determine if we're being weak or if we are being wise? I just told you, of course, you can't listen to what other people say, right? So I can't tell you what the right answer is, but I can tell you what has worked for me and what has worked for several people that I have worked with. I've seen it unfold right in front of me. This place of being very indecisive of like, am I just giving up? Am I making the wrong decision? Am I being smart about this? You have to tap in, ladies. You have to quiet your mind. You have to create a space that is a safe space for you. Whether that's talking to someone one-on-one and bouncing those ideas off of you, or if it's just going to a mindful place where you exercise, you're doing yoga, you're meditating, you're walking, you're going to a space where all this noise is not around you. And I truly believe that ultimately your gut, right, your gut intuitive feelings will align with what is wise and what is this, myth of weakness. I don't know that we're ever really being weak in any situation. I feel like most of the time we are showing up the best that we can show up, or we're trying to show up the best that we can show up. What is really weakness? Is it a moment of taking a break from being your best? Is it a moment of vulnerability and reality that maybe something is just too much for you? Here's the thing, we may have places where we fall off, where we are not showing up as our strongest selves or our best selves, but we all need a reprieve. We all need to be able to regather, reboot, and then go again. What is wise in that process is recognizing that maybe this is a place where I've fallen back. So let me fall back and take advantage of this time to dissect, to think, to feel, right? To intuitively feel about what needs to happen next. You do not have to make decisions quickly. It doesn't matter what other people are telling you in terms of like time constraints. You don't have to do that. Take your time to tap in and really know what is the wisest thing for your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, okay? Don't be swayed that you need to do this because if you don't do it, you're being weak. Why do we even put value on that? What is this whole thing about you are powerless and that's an awful thing to be? When you look at a child or you look at a baby or you look at someone who's disabled or someone who really isn't capable, do we shame them for being at a space, for doing the best that they can in that moment? Or do we understand and try to help them and pull them closer to their strength? Do we try to bring them to the place where they are at their full capacity instead of telling them, you're doing something wrong, you have lost value as a human being? We don't do that to them. So why do we allow others to do that to us when we know that we're showing up the best that we can in sometimes very tumultuous situations? Get this idea of weakness out of your mind. Be wise. Take your time to tap into where you're at, where you want to be, and what your next steps need to be. Do not be threatened or shamed or feel invaluable, unworthy, undeserving, or dismissed because someone else is telling you that you're weak. When you really tap in, this is how I find my true information. When you really tap in and you quiet yourself and you try to think about who you are and where you are, I promise you, your inner self will never give you back the words, you are weak. That is always going to come from an outside source. And it doesn't come from inside because it is not your truth. That is not who you are. You are who you are. Continue to show up the best that you can. That may be different on Tuesday than it is on Wednesday. That's okay. This is an ever-growing, ever-going journey. Be wise, take your time, tap in, and trust you over all others.